Bunny Man.
And I'm Crazy Susie.
And we are in the Eyes of Terror.
And today we're going to finish up our last movie in the series of Mother's Day Massacre. Yes, we're finally doing it. We are completing this series.
Yeah. After 3 months of...
We have had such a crazy schedule, and both of us have switched jobs again. So we're finishing up this series finally and thankfully, and we're ending it with Ed Gein.
The Butcher of Plainfield, 2007.
We found this lovely hit.
Lovely is a word.
I think the Bunnyman feels like that's a little bit of a stretch. We found this on TubiTV. It is rated R. It's listed as a crime, drama, horror film. It is scored as a 3.7 out of a 10 on IMDb.
That's being gracious.
It's 1 hour and 30 minutes long. I think the Bunnyman's tiffed about this film is that some of the information in it probably isn't extremely accurate.
It's not just that. It's everything is extremely inaccurate. So, yeah.
Well, it is not listed as a biography, so...
But you put the person's name on there. So, I would expect it to be a little bit more... And this is based on a true story.
Yeah... I understand that.
Okay.
The director is Michael Pfeiffer. He's also the writer. And in the cast, Kane Hodder, he plays Ed Gein. Adrienne France plays Erica. Michael Berryman plays Jack. Priscilla Barnes plays Vera, or Mama Mason. Sean Hoffman plays Bobby Mason. Timothy Omen plays Sheriff Tim Omen. Kea Coley plays Susan Layton. John Burke plays Rick Layton. Mateo Indelcado plays Deputy Coley. Stan Bly plays Deputy Lyle. Deborah Flora plays Cynthia, I can't pronounce the last name. And there's many more characters. As you know, we only go through a brief list. The rest you can view on IMDb if you would like to see all of them. The estimated budget for this film looks like it's quite a bit, about $1.5 million. And the storyline for it says, inspired by the true story of one of the most gruesome killers in American history. Now, years after inspiring Psycho's Norman Bates, The Silent of the Lambs, Buffalo Bill, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface, the story of real-life serial killer Ed Gein.
Mm-hmm. There's so much wrong in that one statement.
And the problem that we tend to have...
We're going to wait to the end to complain.
We will mention after the film, because there's several footnotes that we have on that subject. And we'll come back to that, even though, I really want to kind of point that out right now, but we'll come back to that.
So this is what, a rated R film?
It is rated R.
Yeah, because you have a big R there.
Yeah, it's rated R.
So you want to do, what are we drinking?
We had started mentioning what we were drinking. I don't typically drink alcoholic beverages because of my medications, but as of late, I do occasionally. And today, I am having a non-dairy... Yes, we do not consume dairy. We're strange people. Dairy does not agree with me. I'm having a non-dairy kind of a chocolate Kahlua beverage.
Yeah, so it's almond Kahlua, right? Almond Kahlua is a little bit weird.
It's like almond Bailey's, and I added a splash of Kahlua to it, so it's a mixture of the two with some chocolate syrup in it. So it's really kind of my own concoction.
But the almond Bailey's has sort of a weird aftertaste.
It does have a kind of a strange aftertaste. I don't know if they've probably added some almond extract to it, because that's kind of what it reminds me of. I'm not really a fan of almond extracts.
Yeah.
It has that kind of like bitter aftertaste that almond extract has, so maybe that's what they've added to it.
If you're a non-dairy consumer and you miss Bailey's, I mean, it's an alternative. It just came out about a year ago, didn't it?
It's been about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
It was available last year, or maybe the year before, around the holidays is when we saw it. So, I mean, yeah, it is a good alternative if you're someone that likes those creamy, milky type coffee beverages, but you can't do dairy. Dairy does not like me. And I would prefer not to be in crippling pain when I consume.
Well, it's not just that, but I'm just
that,
saying, just be fair warned that it does have a weird...
It does have a little bit of a strange aftertaste, so...
It could be, either a sweetener or something, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's a sweetener or if it's the kind of an almond extract, so...
And I am drinking a breakfast stout by the Founders Brewing. It's a double chocolate coffee oatmeal stout. And it's got a picture of a baby eating oatmeal on it.
Well, it's a small child. It looks like they're eating a bowl of porridge.
Yeah. And it's quite good. It has a very deep...
It's pretty good. I tried it. It made me want a bowl of chili. I guess it's a good thing I had already preemptively started making chili.
It has a deep chocolate stout flavor to it. That's like the biggest thing. It's like...
Yeah,
and
it's very bold.
And it doesn't have a weird aftertaste. So, like, a lot of beers that do this have a weird aftertaste. So...
It's almost like a gritty kind of at the bottom of the pot of coffee kind of
and this one
taste.
And this one really doesn't. So
no, it's pretty smooth.
And it's pretty, like, I want to say almost mono flavoring. I mean, there's a bit of other, like...
It's pretty smooth for a beer that has that real deepness, richness to it.
But I feel like a lot of it has to deal with... I've noticed that a lot with the oatmeal stouts. The oatmeal stouts have a nice ending to them. So, other than our not so expert beer and alcohol talk, let's get into the movie.
We are by no means experts in the drink arena, but we like to share information that we have and experiences that we have. So, for the movie, it begins with a woman crying. She is trapped in a trunk. The car stops and she gets dragged out of the trunk. And she's knocked out by a very large man. Actor Kane Hodder is playing Ed Gein. And I don't know if you've ever seen, if you're a horror movie buff like we are, most likely you do know exactly who we're talking about when we talk about the actor Kane Hodder.
He played I forgot, he played like Jason X, like he played a series of Jasons. I forgot what year he was active as Jason, but he was one of the bigger, beefier.
He's a very large man, like 6'5",
beefy.
big. He's a very wide-shouldered, very large man. Not fat. I'm not saying fat. I'm saying he's a brick wall.
Yeah.
If you were walking and not paying attention and looking down at your phone and you walked into him, you would know it. Like, you would fall over. You would feel like you walked into a brick wall. He's just broad-shouldered, very large man. So this is the individual that they chose to play Ed Gein. Ed Gein
Is the complete opposite of Kane Hodder.
is very short and pretty petite for a man.
I would say scrawny and awkward.
I believe those are adjectives that the townsfolk that he lived with used to describe him. Scrawny, awkward, quiet, recluse.
He almost looked in the pictures, especially towards when he was captured. Captured. He really wasn't. Not like he ran or anything.
No. Like homeless almost.
Yeah, I was going to say malnutritioned.
Right, because he didn't shave. He had stubble.
Well, I mean, he shaved but he would be considered unshaven for the time frame. Like he was he was shaved, but he didn't do a good job. He had stubble, yeah.
Yeah, he hadn't shaved in a day or two.
Yeah.
Men in that time, they kept clean shaven because, and he may not have had a shower that day. He just wasn't a very well kept person. He didn't really care much about his appearance. He probably didn't wash his clothes regularly or bathe regularly, or he didn't have a wife. His mother was already passed on then, so he didn't really have anybody with him all the time to really emphasize, you need to keep yourself well kept, you need to eat.
Because he wasn't old there. He was not a...
After his mother died, he had...
No. He was always been from my understanding, he's always been a bit slow. As the townspeople... So he had some sort of mental deficiency.
Right, but he was so close to his mother that after she died, he kind of had a mental break too.
Yeah. So let's get into the actual movie, then we'll talk about...
So, Ed Gein, like we said, was not a big man, but Kane is huge and he's playing this character. So he hangs the lady up on meat hooks.
I'm just going to mention this. This lady that this Ed Gein has had, it's a little young for the original Ed Gein.
He hangs her up on meat hooks on her back.
In both shoulders.
And she comes to from being knocked out. And she screams and squirms until she breaks herself loose. Her skin rips her free from the hooks.
Can you imagine just the sheer pain that would be like? Because it looked like it wasn't just in the skin, but it looked like it went through the muscle right above the collarbone.
If it had went through the muscle, then it probably wouldn't have broken.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, imagine you being dangled by these two meat hooks.
I would imagine it would hurt.
And then then they rip out of your body, and then she gets up like there's nothing happened. I was like, whatever.
She's has this immense fear that this person's going to capture her again. So just pure adrenaline, I would imagine. Here she is in this unfamiliar place in her undergarments, and she's bleeding. She runs out of the barn and right into the arms of her captor.
It was a lovely embrace.
Now you see the actual photo clips of Ed Gein's home and what the police found when they entered that dreadful day. The body parts, skins, his gruesome collection, and that squinty-eyed face. Some time has passed, and now the deputy has found the car of the young lady who wrecked, the one who unluckily ended up being a house guest of Ed Gein's. Ed Gein is now outside doing yard work. A man in a suit comes by to let him know the government is offering an incentive now to the farm and gives him his first subsidy check.
Well, actually, I did look this up, and during that time frame, which is about 1957, the government did give incentives for people not to farm. Because there was sort of like, I think, an overabundance
Well,
of food that they didn't know what to do with. I'm not quite sure, but there was a point where the government did pay for people not to farm.
so the gentleman has him sign for the check and he goes on about his way.
And that actually happened in real life, too. Ed Gein was paid by the government not to farm.
The sheriff and other deputy check out the vehicle of the missing girl. They talk about sending out a team to look for her. Mason was the head of the team and has his own ideas. The sheriff tells him he has it covered and to do what he asks. Deputy Mason goes to his mom's. She has forgotten to take her meds, and he finds her on the floor. The next night, his mom makes him and his girlfriend supper and tells her she should rest. She says, I'm proud of you for getting a promotion, and he says he shouldn't be eating and enjoying this time with his family with this girl missing. His mom says, well, you can't find anyone on an empty stomach. His mom and his girlfriend both encourage him to eat and enjoy this time with them, and he's just consumed by the fact that this young girl is missing and he's not out looking for her. He has this guilt that he's sitting here enjoying this meal instead of being out and looking for this girl. Ed and his buddy Jack are at the graveyard digging up his next experiment. Jack asked if he has had enough. Isn't he tired of cutting up bodies? Ed tells him not to concern himself with this. That body is just an empty vessel.
Well, it's interesting because Jack is played by another noticeable character.
Mm-hmm.
And who knew that the guy from The Hills Have Eyes retired to Wisconsin and hooked up with Ed Gein? He was getting a little bit tired of the desert heat.
Yeah. Like I said, he says, these bodies are just empty vessels. And so they dig up a lady and go about what they were doing that night. Jack is still upset about it. And they have what all they've done. And it's a crime, he says. Well, they're driving down the road and Ed takes the keys out of the ignition. They stop the truck and get out. Jack tells Ed he's all he has since his ma and brother are dead. Well, I guess Ed decides this is enough. And Ed beats him over the head with his shovel.
So we get our first kill.
Yeah.
Jack. And I give this a 3. That was sort of lame, but yeah.
I guess great minds think alike. I gave it a 3 as well.
But it was also sort of lame at the same.
Well, you realize once Ed gets home that he actually was dragging poor old Jack behind his truck.
Mm-hmm.
So he beats him over the head with the shovel, gets back in the truck, and drives off.
So I do have one question. Well, so one of many. But they really do not. You really don't know the relationship between Jack at this point. Like, there's no. They do not clarify who Jack is.
Mm-hmm.
at all. Like, it's just some guy who helps him dig up dead bodies in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So Ed drives off. Bobby, or Deputy Mason, and Erica are out in the woods in his car, making out. I guess he got over feeling bad about that girl missing. He gives her a necklace. They see headlights coming and crouch down so as not to be seen.
Well, it turned out to be like this. Oh, there's a missing girl, but I've got a boner.
It was Ed Gein driving by. Ed gets home, and you see that he has been dragging old Jack all the way home behind his truck. He's walking out in the graveyard. Someone stops him from robbing the graves. Due to the grave robbings, the guy pulls out a gun on him, and Ed decides, nope, not today.
No. Well, he gets stopped, and then good old Ed puts down a bag of stuff, and he was like, I don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing anything. And the guy, like, lets him go, and he proceeds to pick up his bag as a bunch of heads roll out of it. And then the guy was like, what?
Yeah. Guy thought he had one over on Ed because he had a gun, but nope. And this is Ed's second kill, the graveyard caretaker.
And he slams his head between the fork of a tree, picks up a log, bashes his head in with it, and kick him out of the fork of the tree. Mm-hmm. And it was, I give it a 2. It was brutal, but it was like, just. Yeah.
The morning comes. Ed goes to the local restaurant and sits at the bar. He orders a caramel pop. He talks to Sue. He is a regular. He imagines that Sue is his mother.
No, I think he more imagines that his mother's...
And when she touches his arm, he snaps and starts choking her.
No, I think he was sexually attracted to her. And then there was like an overlap.
But when she says a particular word, in his head, he's hearing his mother's voice.
Yeah, it's like the whole Norman Bates thing.
And then he starts choking her.
Spilling his caramel pop.
He chokes her and takes her body home with him and proceeds to cut her up while he is hallucinating about his mother. Deputy Mason goes to his mom's and raids her fridge and talks to her about saving money to buy a ring to ask Erica to marry him. He tells his mama, well, Sue is number 3. What do you give Sue?
Yeah, a 2.
I give it a 3, just simply because he was basically blacked out while he did it.
Yes, but the true victim of the entire crime is the caramel pop.
I don't know, I never had one.
No, neither have I. I don't want to. These sound disgusting. I don't like caramel anyway.
Yeah, well.
No, he spent good money on it. He just never finished it.
The thing was, people that were witnessing it thought that she was making out with him, didn't realize that he was.
Yeah, that was because it wasn't like the deputy and his girlfriend there, or was that a little bit later?
Other people in town that thought that they were making out. Yeah. They were witnessing him choking her and thought it was something else.
Yeah.
Well, she tells him to be careful. Deputy Mason returns to the police station, and the sheriff is aggravated. He didn't get in touch with him over the radio. Mason says he's still getting used to the new radio. Sheriff updates Sheriff updates Mason on what's going on with the case. and they gather a team to go out and look for the girl and Sue. Mason suggests to the sheriff that the sheriff get the local radio station to announce a message. Mason's mom owns and runs the hardware store. Bobby calls Erica and tells her she needs to get ready, and he will pick her up on his way out of town. The sheriff tells him to get familiar with the radio so they can stay in touch. Vera Mason, the Deputy Mason's mother, goes to open the shop. She goes inside early to get things organized. Ed comes to the door, and she tells him they're not open yet. A while later, she looks up, and he is in front of her on the other side of the counter. He scares her. She asks how he got inside. He says the back door was unlocked, so she allows him to gather the items he needs.
So everything that they sell in the store is either located on the pegboard behind her, because there's just crap on the pegboard behind her, or all they sell is sharp, rusty saws. One or the other.
There's a few shelves, like bookshelves, in the store that have items on them. Yeah, it's like farming stuff. I mean, it's just...
But no, I mean, just as a store, it fails to convey that this is a store.
Right.
And who wants a rusty saw?
While in the store, he hallucinates that she is his mother, but is able to snap out of it. He leaves and rushes home. Ed breaks down and cries. Deputy Mason goes to the bar and walks around to see if he finds anything that could help figure out where Sue may have went. At first he thinks her boyfriend may be involved. He and Erica again start making out. He notices the caramel pop bottle has dirty handprints.
Well, okay, that whole thing. So he brings his girlfriend into a murder scene, and then they decided that they should, get some fun time into the murder scene. And then she goes, she's going to pick up the bottle, and he was like, "Don't do that because there might be fingerprints on it."
Right.
I'm like, yeah, should not have brought her into the murder scene. Yeah, dumbo.
Yeah, it's just a series of bad choices. So he notices there were dirty fingerprints on the soda bottle, and the steering wheel also had dirty fingerprints. And with all of the grave robbing, he's starting to put all the pieces together.
But he's like this. He's like, we do live in a farming community, and there's dirty fingerprints. That's unheard of in this environment. Must be Ed Gein.
Ed starts hacking Sue up with a big knife, and once she stops moving, he pulls out the saw and detaches her head. Deputy Mason and Erica pull off the side of the road to have a bite to eat and to rest. Bobby wakes up, and again they make out. Reed, a neighborhood boy, stops Vera and asks if Bobby is home, so he can catch frogs with him. She says no and explains that he went to Rochester and will be back tomorrow. Several people have went into the hardware store wanting to purchase items. Some have left IOUs and others money and have taken items. A citizen has gone to the sheriff to let him know that Vera is missing. She opened the store and now she is gone. The sheriff radios Bobby Mason and tells him to come back home because his mom is missing. Deputy Mason says he is heading on back. Bobby speeds home. He scares Erica. She begs him to slow down. Ed is crafting a mask out of the face of one of his victims. Bobby wrecks the car. Erica is ejected from the car. and he frantically looks for her. She is badly injured. He gets her to come to. He goes back to the car to get the radio, to call for help, but the radio is broken. He leaves her there and takes off running for the road. He stops the first car he sees, and they give him a ride. Ed finds Erica, and he takes her to his place and sets her broken leg. Deputy Mason has the people who picked him up to take him to where he left Erica, but she is not there. They say there is a gas station up the road and they have a phone. He thinks this is a good idea because he can call the hospital and check if anyone has taken her there, but no such luck. A man whose dad owns the gas station in town came in to the police station to tell the sheriff that he saw Ed Gein drive today with a woman's foot sticking out of the truck. So the sheriff decides to pay Mr. Gein a visit. He and a few deputies go out to the Gein farm on the outskirts of town, and they give him ample chances to come out. No one comes out, so they go in, and oh boy, what they find. As the cops are at his property, Ed is walking through the property with Erica over his shoulder. Deputy Mason finally catches up with them. The sheriff tells Mason that Ed is the suspect, and he may have taken Mason's mama. Well, Mason tells the sheriff Erica was with him and they wrecked. And he went to get help. When he came back with the help, she was gone. They go in the house. They find Mrs. Layton, or Sue, skinned and tacked up to the kitchen cabinets. And the sheriff orders Mason not to go into the barn. When the sheriff opens the door, he vomits at the sight of Vera. She is hung upside down and gutted and quartered like a deer. The sheriff wants the farm torn apart to find Erica, his little girl. Ed is sitting out in the woods waiting for them to leave. He keeps saying they will leave. The sheriff had the other deputies to take Vera down so that Mason would not have to see his mama hanging like an animal. Mason promises to her he will get him. Another deputy reminds Mason Erica is still out there. They still need to find her. Bobby snaps out of it and leaves the barn. He starts walking around yelling for Erica. He walks through the field yelling for her. And he finds her. He finds her locket. I'm sorry, not her. He finds the locket that he gave to her. Ed talks to her and says, "Oh, I guess that's your boyfriend. Sounds like he's pretty close." Erica hits Ed with a rock and attempts to escape, but it's difficult with her broken leg. He says he did not want to kill her, but now he will. He says, "We're all just flesh moving through life. Why does it matter when we stop?" She says it's not for you to decide, it's for God to choose. Bobby tackles him and wants to kill him. Erica and the sheriff tells him not to shoot. It's not for you to be judge and jury. Arrest him. Bobby says, "Why? So he can force me to relive this and laugh at me in a courtroom?" He shoots the gun beside him and decks him. He then grabs Erica and consoles her and gives her her necklace back. The deputies and sheriff tackle Ed Gein and take him away. Erica says because he found her locket, it proves they're meant to be together.
Aww. Aww. I'm going to use that line on, somebody else. I found your locket at Goodwill. We're meant to be together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ed Gein was accused of 10 murders, but actually only charged with 2. He was declared mentally unfit for trial and was sentenced to life in jail with no parole. He lived all of... What?
I don't know.
He lived all of his days in a mental institution. In the years to come, he was a model patient. He never caused any harm again. Finally, in 1984, he succumbed to cancer and died in his cell.
Yeah. So, what's your final score on this beast of a movie? I give it a 5 out of 5. It's the perfectly accurate, 100%. There's no question whatsoever that this is a true autobiography of Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. Actually,
I have a feeling that you're just being totally and absolutely absurdly facetious about that.
what gave that away? I wouldn't know.
For some reason, these pages do not want to say I actually didn't score it.
You want to know the really, really true score I gave it?
True?
True?
Mm-hmm.
0.5.
Oh my god.
This movie pissed me off. Out of all the movies we've done, or will be doing, this movie pissed me off.
Angry.
It's an anger score. It's an anger score of, like, it doesn't even deserve a 1. Because it deals with... He's not even really a serial killer. Because a true definition of a serial killer is somebody who kills multiple people, but there's a period of cooling off. There has to be a period of cooling off. If there is no period of cooling off, like you kill, then there's no, and then there's another, and they all have like a series of like similar things. If you look at
there has to be a pattern, and there's so many guidelines that go along with serial killing that have to be met in order to be considered a serial killer. Mm-hmm. It's not just you killed X amount of people, and he was only charged with killing 2 people.
Yeah, 2. I think it was more, and even then they were just sort of like the killing outweighed what they found. He was really, in my opinion, and I think the only reason why they put him as a serial killer is because there's no other sort of like classification that they could have put him in.
Right.
Because most of his stuff was robbing graves,
right?
But it was not taking jewelry. It was literally taking body parts. I
think the reason why they classified him that way was just simply because they had to make something stick to make him be put in jail.
Yeah, I think that was...
Because his crimes were so just... revolting, I guess.
Well, you got to think that the town was, I think, at the time was up to 1,000 people. It's even smaller now. Plainfield is even smaller now.
Right.
And
what he did was just so out of the norm. And that town, like you said, was so small. There was hardly ever any crime there. Mm-hmm. And for something so extreme to happen in such a small town, they had to make an example of him.
Yeah, they actually had to move the sentencing outside of out of that entire area. I think they had to like move
because
it to
everybody knew.
Yeah, they had to move it to like Milwaukee or something, or not Milwaukee.
It was
that would have
such
been
a small
Minnesota.
Town that everybody there knew him. Everybody.
But they had to move it to like one of the bigger cities in Wisconsin. So I forgot exactly where he was sentenced at, but it was not within that town. The 2 killings would be. The bartender her name was Bloody Mary. That was her nickname, her moniker. I forgot her real name. In the movie, she was shown as being strangled to death. She wasn't. during daylight. She was actually shot at nighttime outside of the bar after closing hours, as she was closing up. And this was a Germanic brick house of a woman. And she was shot with a 32 caliber Mauser pistol. And then the other one, which led up to him being caught, was the gas station would be the general store owner, and she was shot with, I think, a .22 rifle that he said he didn't shoot. It just went off as he loaded it because he was checking it, but he went in there, cased the joint a little bit. I mean, I guess you could say that was what sort of led to the serial killer type thing, because he cased the joint because the woman reminded him so much of his mother. He bought a cup or a jar of antifreeze, and she wrote out a receipt for him, and he left the receipt. But she was shot with the .22 rifle, and he dragged the body out of the store. So he said he didn't kill her. The rifle accidentally went off, but he had the bullet in his pocket. So, there's a lot of, he's the one that shot her, but we don't know if he shot her on purpose or he blacked out type thing. But that's what led to him getting caught.
But he did take the bodies and he did mutilate.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they found boxes of noses.
And that's the thing. That's the thing that I don't think at that time there really was, like you said, classifications of how you would specify it if someone mutilated bodies like he did.
Well, there's really no other category for that outside of, there's one other woman, and she I forgot what concentration camp, but I think it was in Poland. She's called like the She-Wolf, and she was the only other sort of person that did what Ed Gein did with making lamps out of skin and body parts and stuff like that. And I mean, he make lampshades out of body parts, and made furniture out of this, like covered furniture and skin and stuff like that. And he did make a mask to summons, like in his mind, to summons his mother from the dead. But there's only like one other person in history that did that. But I mean, she was a war criminal and they said that he read a lot during that time period. There was a lot of literature that came out, like comic books and stuff like that came out that showed the gruesome parts of like war, like of murdering and stuff, like what they did. And he read a lot of that. So they think that is maybe where he got the ideas for what he did. We don't know. But he was mentally wasn't all there. And like you said, his mother, just to say, when they entered his house, the house that he lived, they entered it at night, and one of the sheriffs entered through the kitchen and through the back, because they couldn't break in. They didn't have a warrant. They just were making sort of a "Are you okay?" type thing, because it was dark and no one had seen him for a while or something like that. And the back door was unlocked, so he went into the kitchen, and his leg brushed against one of the bodies. He thought it was originally a deer, and he turned on his flashlight or whatever, and it was actually one of the bodies stripped like a deer. If you see the pictures of it in the kitchen, and he got sick and he freaked out. But the house was just completely disarrayed. I mean, they found boxes of vaginas and noses and lampshades, like I said, and furniture and this mask. And I mean, it was just untidy anyway, like clothes strewn all over the place. Skull caps, the tops of skulls used as bowls and stuff like that. And I mean, it was gruesome what he did. And so, but then they went up to his mother's, and his mother's room was, it was perfect. It was like, it wasn't touched at all. So there was sort of like, he idolized his mother, even when she was alive. And there's a theory that he may have killed 2 other people, one of them including his older brother. Because his older brother, there was a fire on their property, and he was found dead. But the weird part was that it looked like he was hit with a blunt object in the back of his head instead of being burnt up in the fire, like Ed Gein claimed. But they couldn't say that he did it 100 without any evidence, and I forgot the other person that they said that he may have killed. But altogether, he's only killed, on record, 2 people. And the way they got him to confess was by
Giving him a piece of apple
pie with cheese on top, like cheddar cheese on top of it. So, all right, so that's sort of like the backstory.
If other criminals were so easy to get them to spill their guts,
have
a piece of pie
but
with
honestly,
cheese
I
on
don't
it.
think he thought it as a crime. Like, just in Ed Gein world, like he lived in his own world. Like everybody said, he was an odd fellow,
In
but
his
he
mind,
was.
it was just as if he were cutting his grass or something.
Yeah, I mean, he thought he was bringing back his mother, or yeah, we don't know. So, I mean, we could make speculations. Like the Norman Bates style of.
In his mind, it was something as simple as just doing a service. It wasn't.
Yeah, we don't know. But I mean, there's so much wrong. Like he actively killed in this movie, and this the Ed Gein movie, and he didn't actively kill except for like I said 2 people, and even then it was more of like I didn't do it type thing. He denied killing either one. I think he sort of said, "Yeah, I killed Bloody Mary," but I don't think he really said, "Yes, I did it," like 100%. But like he sort of denied both of the killings. He's like, "I didn't kill anybody," So I don't know, but I mean, he had a body count of what 3 people in this 3 to 4 people in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, so actively killing, and it was all during the day.
No, like 2 of them were at night and 2 were during the day.
Yeah, and
yeah, the facts were very skewed.
He never actively strung up anybody. He never chased down anybody. I mean, it was a very Oh, in the times of the murder in 1957, this town had about 680 people. It is now down to about 400 people living in that town. So I did do some censuses. So he did kill 2 known victims, Bernard C. Warden and Mary Hogan. Bernie C. Warden. His brother Henry, and 2 other hunters. So there's speculation that he may have killed 2 other hunters. Because they were hunting on his property and they died weirdly, but there was no Jack character in real life. There were reports of a mysterious man, though. So, and some of the stuff that they did find was 15 vulvas, and a dress, and like a shoebox. So, and then, like I said, Kane Hodder being the massive man that he is, compared to Ed Gein being scrawny and
Very short.
I mean, the main kid
Kane is very tall.
I mean, the Ed Gein could be no more than let's say 5'3" at best, and way more than 100 pounds. Yeah, like that. And I mean, he would have muscle because he was a farmhand, but he was by no means being able to take down some of these women that lived in this town.
And Kane is a very muscular individual and very tall. Not that he isn't a talented actor. That's not the point. The point is, stature-wise, him and actually the true Ed Gein are polar opposites.
Yeah. And some other things, some other sort of weird critiques. I don't really think that the love subplot was necessary at all. It really didn't add anything to it other than towards the end. Like, and that was the we got him type thing.
It showed a conflict, so I kind of get that, but other than that...
And the acting in this movie was not well done at all.
Well, that's what happens when you do B-rated films.
Yeah. So that's our review of Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield, the ultimate mama's boy. I did see something really interesting related to Ed Gein. So I just happened, when we were watching this movie afterwards, I was looking at some Ed Gein stuff. And supposedly this woman, I found it on a website, was trying to sell off a cast iron pot that supposedly ties itself back to the Ed Gein house.
Really?
Yeah, she says she has photographic evidence of it.
Photographic evidence of a cast iron pot.
Pot from Ed Gein's house. And I don't know if you know what actually happened to Ed Gein's house or not. Ed Gein's house was actually burnt down. Some think it was arson. It was like it was meant to go up to sell, and somebody came in and burnt it. Like the house burnt down. Some think it was the cops doing it because they didn't want, like the town didn't want to sensationalize. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to sort of get rid of everything.
Makes sense.
And so they burnt down the house. So if there's like no physical place, then there could be no physical place to, like no altar to go to type thing.
Right.
So there's some speculation, or it could have been some kids burning it down. I sort of think it may have been the cops, to be honest. Just because I think they had more to gain out of not having it there.
Yeah.
And that they were working on, the discretion of the town. And then a bunch of, like, hoodlum teenagers burning down a house. But with anything, and this is with anything that says that they have evidence or whatever of some sort of weird, something that dates back to that serial killer, that's, not sort of like a picture of them, or, you gotta be really, really, really careful about. I mean, especially something like a cast iron pot. Because this...
Yeah, because, cast iron pots look so different.
Well, and the way that this lady said it, it was just, she gave out this whole story about how her grandfather or whatever was like, took this, was part of the police or whatever, took the pot from the house, brought it, the grandmother didn't think anything about it, put pots and stuff in, put plants in and stuff in it, and it's been outside their house ever since, full of plants. But to think, but she found out that it was, from Ed Gein's house through her grandfather, and she just can't imagine that intestines and stuff have been inside of this.
Yeah, because we all know Ed Gein loved eating human intestine.
Yeah, so...
Are you kidding me?
And she's asking a couple $1,000s for it.
Of course she is.
So, just be careful. Because, I mean, murder collection, memorabilia is a pretty big niche industry.
Ate beans and franks in it or something.
Yeah, I don't...
Actually, he probably didn't eat anything in it because it's probably not his.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure, like... I don't think Ed Gein actually consumed human flesh. He might have had a fascination with Nazis and cannibalism, but I don't think he actually consumed the human flesh. And if he did, I mean, because you gotta think, a lot of the people that, what he got were dead bodies, so it would have been like rotting flesh.
Yeah.
So.
And formaldehyde stinks. You wouldn't want to eat flesh soaked in it.
So if he did, he would have been sick. Either way, and I mean, there's no record of him that I know of, him consuming. He's not Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
So, like I said, that ends at Gein. Anything else? Do you want to? Would you even recommend watching this movie?
I mean, if you're interested in serial killers, yeah, sure. Do your research and watch it, and maybe there's idiosyncrasies in it that we didn't find.
Or just get really upset about it, like I did, and just rage, just rage about it, because that's what I did this entire movie.
Yes. I so looked forward to recording this episode.
Now, there are some really good Ed Gein movies out there. Like, they're more of like documentaries about it and stuff like that. I suggest watching those than watching this. I think the claim to fame that this movie has is literally, it's just, the name. They're just trying to attach onto that memory, and
so that is it.
That is it.
We'll scare you later.
Bye.